There's a line I swore to myself and to my parents that I would never, ever cross. It's the only thing separating me from the monsters I hunt, the foundation my entire life is built on. But one night, I didn't just stand on that line. I was ready to leap. This isn't a story about being a hero. It's the story of the moment I almost became the villain. And that possibility, it terrified me more than any monster I've ever faced. It's not just a rule. Anyone can have rules. This is a vow, one made in blood and grief, in a dirty alley that stank of gunpowder and rain. I watched my world shatter when I was a boy. That trauma is the fuel for my engine. The loss, the anger, the absolute helplessness, that's what forged me into what I am today. Every night, I'm not just fighting criminals. I'm fighting the ghost of that little boy. I'm trying to take back control in a world that stole it from me. My one rule, I will not kill, isn't a tactical choice. It's not about the law. It's about making sure no one else ever feels the kind of pain that created me. It's the absolute line between justice and vengeance. Vengeance is what I feel. It's a fire in my blood, a constant scream in my head. But justice is what I have to deliver. Justice is impartial. It's controlled. Vengeance is a wildfire, and if I ever let it off the leash, it wouldn't just burn me alive. It would take all of Gotham with me. A lot of people think it's a weakness. They tell me that by sparing my worst enemies, I'm just letting them hurt more people, that their blood is on my hands. Maybe they're right. I carry that weight every single night. But they don't get it. The rule isn't for them. It's for me. The fear isn't just that I'll become a killer. It's that if I cross that line, even once, I'll never come back. The part of me born in that alley, the part that's nothing but rage and grief, it would take over, and the man I am, the son my parents raised, would be gone. The Batman would just be another monster in the shadows. The night it all went wrong started like any other. Rain hammering the gargoyles, washing the filth into the gutters but never really making the city clean. A call came in, a home invasion, upper district, a family, husband, wife, their young son. By the time I got there, the red and blue lights were a frantic, chaotic heartbeat against the wet asphalt. I slipped past the police cordon, a ghost at my own crime scene. Inside, it was a sickening echo of my past. 2 bodies, a string of pearls, snapped scattered across the floorboards like teeth. And upstairs, a detective was kneeling by a little boy wrapped in a shock blanket. The boy wasn't crying, he was just staring. That hollow 1,000-yard stare. I know that stare. I see it in my own reflection. He saw me in the doorway, just a shadow, and for just a second, those empty eyes filled with something. Not hope, not relief, fear. He was afraid of me. In that instant, the professional wall I build between Bruce Wayne, the boy, and the Batman, it didn't just crack, it crumbled into dust. This wasn't a case anymore. This was my parents' murder all over again. And decades of buried grief didn't erupt as sadness. It came out as pure, white-hot rage. The perp was a low-level thug named Johnny Vitti, known for being brutal, but never this savage. The police had a name, but no idea where he was. They'd follow procedure, build a case. Procedure wasn't going to cut it, not tonight. Tonight, justice was just a word. The only word I could hear was the one whispering from the darkest corner of my soul. Vengeance. For the next few hours, I wasn't a detective. I was a predator. The mask is supposed to be a symbol, a way to channel pain into purpose. But that night, it felt different. It wasn't hiding me, it was revealing the thing that lived underneath. The rage was a physical weight. My heart hammered against my ribs. The rain on the cowl sounded like screaming. Every shadow I used felt like an extension of the abyss that had opened up inside me. I tore through the underworld. My methods, usually so precise, so controlled, became reckless. I wasn't interrogating criminals for information anymore. I was breaking them. I wasn't leaving them for the cops. I was leaving them as a message. The fear I used as a tool was just a byproduct of a fury I couldn't control. I could feel myself slipping, and the voices of reason, of Alfred, of my father, were just whispers in a hurricane. The trail of broken bones led me to the industrial district, an abandoned chemical plant by the docks, a place forgotten by the city, reeking of rust and decay, the perfect hole for a rat like Vidi to hide in. I didn't bother with stealth. I crashed through a skylight and landed in the middle of his crew. They barely had time to look up from their card game. It wasn't a fight. It was a demolition. Every blow was for that little boy. Every crack of bone was a release valve for the pressure in my skull. I was a force of nature, and when they were all lying on the floor, broken and unconscious, I saw him. Vidi, standing at the far end of the warehouse, a smug look on his face, holding a gun. Not at me, at his own head. "Any closer, Bat, and I'm out," he sneered, his voice echoing. "You don't get to have me." He was wrong. I didn't want him for the police. I didn't want him for a trial. I wanted him for me. I walked toward him, slowly. The only sound was my boots on the grimy concrete and the relentless rain outside. He was bluffing. A coward like him didn't have the nerve. As I closed the distance, his hand started to tremble. The bluff broke. He dropped the gun and ran, scrambling up a maze of catwalks above our heads. The chase was short. I was faster, stronger, and running on pure rage. I cornered him on the highest platform, a rickety metal grid 50 feet above a vat of churning green chemicals. He was pathetic, sweating, gasping for air, his eyes wide with animal panic. "Why?" The voice that came out wasn't mine. It was a guttural snarl. "The pearls. The alley. Why them?" He actually laughed, a high, desperate squeal. It was a message, to a rival. It wasn't personal. It was just business. Just business. Those two words snapped the last thread of my control. The rage became a supernova. I grabbed him by his throat, lifted him clean off his feet, and held him out over the edge, over the bubbling vat. He was choking, his legs kicking at empty air, his hands clawing uselessly at my gauntlet. This was it, the line. I could feel it right under my boots. All I had to do was open my hand, just relax my grip. It'd be an accident. He'd fall. The monster inside me would finally be quiet. I looked down into his terrified eyes and saw nothing, no remorse, and I made my choice. I was going to do it. The world would be better off without him. I would be better off. My fingers loosened. I felt his weight start to slip. In that split second, with his life in my hand, a memory flashed through my head. Not of my parents' death, of their life. My father's hand on my shoulder, his voice so calm and steady, telling me that real strength wasn't about how hard you could hit, but about how much you could take and still choose to be good. My mother's smile. Then, another face. The boy's. If I do this, what's the difference between me and the man who murdered his parents? I wouldn't just be creating an orphan. I'd be proving to that boy, to myself, that the darkness really is stronger. I'd be inflicting the very same trauma on the world that created me. The realization hit me like a fist to the gut. The terror that washed over me was cold, absolute. It wasn't fear of Vidi. It wasn't fear of getting caught. It was fear of myself, fear of the thing I was about to become. The real villain in that warehouse wasn't the sniveling killer. It was the man holding him over a vat of chemicals, ready to enjoy the fall. With a roar that was half rage and half pure self-hatred, I hauled him back from the edge and slammed him onto the catwalk. He just lay there, sobbing and gasping. I stood over him, my entire body shaking, not from the fight, but from the horrifying clarity of what I'd almost done. I hadn't just stepped up to the line. I'd been on the other side, and some tiny, last shred of my parents' son had dragged me back. I left Vidi cuffed for the police. I didn't stick around. I went to the highest spire in Gotham and just watched the sun come up. The night was over, but something inside me had been fundamentally broken. I'd always known there was a darkness in me, but I thought I had it in a cage. That night, I learned the cage door was wide open. I learned my one rule isn't a shield, it's a leash, and it's terrifyingly thin. And that terror, it hasn't faded. It's a part of me now, a constant reminder that the real war isn't against the criminals of Gotham. It's against the rage inside my own heart. It's a fight I'm not sure I can ever win. That night wasn't a victory. It was a catastrophic failure that showed me how close I am, always, to becoming the thing I swore I'd destroy. It terrified me then. It terrifies me now. Because the monster is always there, waiting. And every single night, I have to choose not to feed it. I'm telling you this because I have to believe I'm not the only one who stood on that edge. If you've ever had to fight a part of yourself, that darkness you're afraid might just win. I want to hear about it in the comments. We all have our monsters. Maybe knowing we're not alone in the fight is what helps us win.